hi, I'm Aleksandar. So I have around 9 years of experience working in NGOs. With many NGOs, I opened many of them. I have many international projects. So I'm here to speak about opening and some basic administration. So what does that entails with the NGOs in Serbia? So I want to ask you. So these 15 questions that I got from, is it from you or from somebody else?
Somebody else.
Okay.
Not all these people, and maybe they have some questions.
Yes, from the organizers, the biggest impressions, and we will have some more.
Okay, maybe I can start with the organizers' questions, and then we can shape with that, because I think a lot of topics are already covered in that way. So the first question was timing of registration. At what point is the best to open an NGO? About the opening, it's best to open as soon as possible. So when you already have three founders, it's best. Three founders. So for basic NGO in Serbia, so Udruženje građana in Serbian, so it's form for NGO in Serbia, you need to have three founders. One of them needs to be Serbian permanent resident. So that's in 99% of cases Serbian citizen. So somebody who is Serbian national or somebody who acquired Serbian passports through any means. So that's something because a lot of donors, especially if you want to apply for more projects, they ask how long do you exist? So, and it's usually 1 year, or for European funds or American funds, maybe 2 years. So it's best to open as soon as possible, as you have three founders and you have a basic idea on what will NGO do. Because everything else with the goals, with the activities, you can change in the process. When you establish NGO, you can change your goals and everything many, many times. So there is no limit on that. So there is also a sub-question. Around are there any nuances regarding timing? So free founding members, some grant programs. Okay, so if somebody is living off donations, so personally, like a person, up to what level can they remain as a private individuals? So that's something not related in that sense to NGOs, but you as a private individual, on your name, you can get as many money as you want. Like somebody, I can send you money. Anybody else in Serbia can send you money, but if that's too common and in large sums, it can be flagged by a tax authority. So because a lot of people in Serbia were working without any official employment, so everybody would send them money, etc. So it's best to if you are living of some donations, if it's very common every month or every day, to open some kind of NGO or some other legal entity. It's not good that you just receive personally donations, but if it is something on small amounts, couple of thousand of dinars, so 10, 20, 100 euros, on some occasions, there is no problem to receive that on your account. So there is no maximum or minimum how can you get donations as a individual person. Okay, and also there was a question about the platforms through which you can receive donations. I can remember especially two platforms, one for donations for NGOs, and for example, if there is something for somebody's health or something like that, in that's donacije.rs. So if I want, I can spell it for you.
Yes, please.
So DONACIJE.rs. So that's especially for NGOs. And if you're crowdfunding something, for example, for some business or some venture that will be business prone, it's ventu.rs, ventu.rs, or crowdfunding.rs, so that's in English spelling. And also if there are some international donations, I know there is some Bulgarian NGO, it's called pavelandreev.org. So Andreev with 2 E's, pavelandreev.org.
This is what for?
This is more for international donations. So if you're working with some, so it's a lot for humanitarian relief and those stuff, but it's more on international basis, and these are more local platforms because this platform is for Bulgaria.
Have you heard about cloud payments?
No, I didn't heard about that. These are most domestic platforms that for domestic transactions, everything.
Donacije, Ventu, crowdfunding, RS,
Yes, those 4. So the first fund.
You sent after
Yeah.
our meeting. And can I ask a question about it? Take this platform some tax or fee. The platform take some fee, and after then need I pay like if I was like a physical some taxes when platform give this money to me, and if I have NGO, need I pay some taxes from this transaction?
Okay, so for donations, if you're like, when you as a person receive donations, as I know they're not taxed, but I always ask my lawyer about those like particularities. But for NGOs, if a company gives you donations, so in that way crowdfunding.rs is a company and they will send a donation to the NGO, there is no tax. But for example, when individual person wants to donate to your NGO, there is a cap. It's 100,000 dinars per year. So it's around $1,000, 850 euros. That's per year per person. So for example, if you want to donate to some NGO, that's the cap. But it's easy like to give like to your friend and say like donate this amount you can donate, so you can spread if you want to donate something larger in that way. So third question was more generally, are there any grant related rules that depend on how long NGO has been active? Yes, so it depends on the donor. Most Serbian donors that are like big ministries, Ministry of Youth and Sports, Ministry of Communications, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they usually ask you that you need to be active at least a year. So like your starting date needs to be a year before like that open call was announced. So for some European donors, like for more serious project, it's usually 2 years. So you need to exist 2 years. And for some, for example, municipal donors, private donors, a lot of times they don't ask, especially if that open call is for some organizations that already began. But something that is maybe more important than a year of your establishment is your activity. Because for example, Ministry of Youth and Sports give, I think, the largest donations to the NGO sector. And they ask that you have some serious previous activity, something like some already projects, budgets, some previous donors, etc. So you usually start small or with private donations, and then you can apply into open calls of the ministries, and especially of like, I think for like Russian community here is a target group of US Embassy in Belgrade. There were a couple of projects that were regarding especially to Russian expats here, and also to bring them to the US. So for those projects, there is usually like, you need a bigger dossier of projects and also a bigger like lifespan of your organization. So that was third question. So then it was for closing an NGO. Are there any complications in closing it down? And what hidden and expected costs should we expect? So it depends on the size of your organization. So if your organization was small and like you didn't succeed, you want to close it, I think like the usual costs around 200 or 300 euros, because you need to go to a process of liquidation. So there are like 2 ways. One way of process of liquidation is that all of the members or all of the board members of the NGO sign a paper that says if when NGO is closed, if there are some debts that weren't settled, you will personally cover them. So that's easier way of liquidation. And it's cheaper, you don't need to liquidate with a professional liquidator, you don't need to put an invoice in like official Serbian gazette that you're liquidating, so that's easier part. But if there was some like, if you had some space, like a lot of things that NGO has possessed and it was bigger with the employees and everything, you need to go like through the proper process of liquidation. You need to hire like a liquidator. I'm not sure what his fee is. Then you need to go for official gazette and the process with the tax authorities, etc. But that's when you go to a pretty much larger scale. So those are like the hidden fees and processes, and it can last like for a couple of weeks and to a couple of months, in dependence of are you like properly liquidated? Do you have some debts to the banks, to any like person in Serbia? So. Okay, possibly hidden unexpected costs. timeline. So reporting requirements, how complex is it to report the process of NGO on a minimal activity? So if you're NGO in Serbia, you just started, you have like a little reporting. So you get for every transaction for your NGO, you get your bank statements. So you need to collect them and like administer them. And at the end of the year, you give them to some accountant. And after that, they give it to like APR. That's our like company authority. So they report to them. So that's one report per year. And
One report per year.
yeah, one report per year. So it's usually it's like from January to the end of December. That's the reporting period. And then when you collect everything, you give it to the accountant, and the accountant needs to settle everything before I think April the 1st, and then they send everything to authorities. So that's the idea. Like for everything for all of the reporting, it's so when you start, it's pretty easy. Like with those bank statements, but when you want some contracts, when it gets more complex, like you can always ask for external support, like from me, lawyers, accountants, etc. So in that way, when it gets more complex, there are more reports. So if you like go to some threshold, like of I think 20 million dinars, so that's like a couple of tens of thousands of euros, there can be more reporting. And also when you get projects from donors, they ask for their reporting. And they have like external audits and everything, but usually you don't get any audits or anything if you're like maybe extremely suspicious in some way, or you do some illegal activities, then you can go for some audits.
Can I ask questions, or shall we wait till the end?
If you have now some question, you can ask, of course.
Do you have any salary taxes for NGOs, or if the founders take some money, how does this work?
So there are no like particular taxes for NGOs, but for example, if you want to have some, it's called the delatnost. So if you have apart from those NGO activities, so that are non-profit, you have, for example, you are also editing books or something that somebody can pay you like a profit. Then if you have per year profit more than 400,000 dinars, that's around $4,000, 3,500 euros, then you pay 15% tax. But on
How much?
15% tax. But also there are like ways you can like circumvent that, like with especially with the other companies like preduzetničke radnje. So like most of people who are freelancers here, they have their own like small business accounts, and with that you can circumvent those taxes. So if you only like really work a lot of things that are not non-beneficiaries, then you can pay some taxes, but that's very rare.
If you have some stuff and we're paying them salary, do we pay salary taxes?
Yes. So the
Same as other.
it's identical as any other like company or any other form.
Same for founders, right? If,
So no, founders don't need to be employed. They can be just founders.
yeah, but can they get any money from the NGO? No, right?
Yes, if they're employed.
If they are employed.
Yes, if they can like be paid every like month if they're employed, and it's same as any other companies. You need to pay taxes and benefits. So benefits is for health, like state health insurance, state pension, and for non-employed office. So those are free taxes, and also like general tax. And it's usually so if there is like net payment 1,000 euros, for those taxes and benefits, it's 60% on that. So it's very expensive in Serbia to hire somebody in that way.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, and it's very sad, but that's the reality. So reporting requirements, so I already told you. So grounds for closure, that was also a question. Under what circumstances could Ministry of Justice shut down NGO, and for what mistakes? So you need to really like do some like serious, I'm sorry to say this, serious shit. Like for NGO to be closed, it needs to go through constitutional court. So and there I summon a couple of grounds. So unconstitutional and unlawful goals, like if you're like some hardcore extreme right organization or something that you have some goals that are not in line with the constitution. Hate speech or discrimination, if you disseminate hate speech or discrimination. If you do some illegal activities on like in serious cases. So that's when Constitutional Court steps in and they ban you for life. But it's really rare. I know of one organization, that was some Serbian ultra-nationalist organization that was banned by Constitutional Court, but it's also long-lasting procedure, and you really need to do like a serious offenses with that. Usually, like if you do some error in administration with the reporting, you pay fines. So it's usually based on that, you pay fine for this, fine for that if you didn't do something that's regular. There is no like criminal sanctions or like banning in that way.
Taxes, liquidation, inflation, is it, can I use it via internet, or I just need papers, documents?
Well, a lot of things are papers in Serbia. So for like creating a small company, like probably a lot of you have, it can be online, but for everything that's done with the organization, it's paper. So most of those things with the tax authority, with registering the organization, everything needs to be in paper.
Reports?
Also in paper. Everything needs to be printed. You need to have like every year's report at your registered office, like office space, your apartment, or wherever is it registered. You need to have everything in paper. If some tax authority or somebody else came, you need to have that in paper, everything.
Yeah, one more question. We were talking about three founders, one of them Serbian citizen. Two others, do they need to have at least boravak, or they can be
No.
just tourists? So they can be just tourists.
They can be anybody in the world.
All right, but one of them is a citizen.
Yes. So in legal terms, they need to have permanent residence.
So not necessarily citizen.
Yeah, but
the
it's.
guys with the PMJ, how we call it.
Yeah, but it's really rare to like you to have that like kind of permanent residency that is allowed for. So it's usually a passport, because I think, as I know in the law, between permanent residency and our passport, it's like quite a small space. Like most of people are on some kind of work-related residency here or something like that, and that's not allowed. But in 99% of cases, it's citizenship.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Uh,
Can I ask another question?
okay. So,
Can I ask another
just
question?
of course.
So the question is if you have experience with European or American funds that can give grants, are they eager and easy to cooperate with a Serbian NGO, or that's how we fly to Europe and open a European one? How like European and American funds are open to work with Serbian?
Well, there are like general open calls every year for many European funds here. Like there is, for all information about those funds is Tempus Foundation.
Foundation?
Yes, they like aggregate all European funds that go to Serbia. So there are quite a lot of funds, but as I know, most of European funds require like a big stack of papers that you done this and this, and that you have organization for more than 2 years. So those are like most serious, and the biggest open calls in Serbia are like from EU and from Americans. Like Americans, like they when Trump came, a lot of grants. And like I know, for example, that in Macedonia, 90 point something % of LGBT organizations, they're closed because they were all US funded. So there are a lot of havoc and NGO here when they closed a lot of. I know like personally some people that they like the grants were just back. So there was a lot of problems, but you can apply here easily to all funds that are available for Serbia's NGOs. I think there are a lot of them. So
Tempus Foundation.
For EU grants.
For EU grants.
And
any kind of aggregator for American or just for all?
US Embassy in Serbia.
US Embassy in Serbia. Nice. Thank you.
And anything Asian, Japanese especially?
As I know, there were some funds by Japanese Embassy, also Chinese Embassy, also for Russian Dome, Gorchakov Fund, also with your Ministry of Foreign Affairs. No Russian, okay. But also I know Chinese, especially they have like a cultural office here. They were giving some funds, but from the East there are not a lot of funds, so not something like that special. I know there were more like, they were organizing, for example, some study trips to Japan, to China, etc. Other countries, well, I know only Russian Federation, China, Japan, Everything else was maybe sometimes, but not that much.
North Europe, like Sweden.
Through the embassy, I think Norwegian embassy, Swedish and Danish were active donors, but maybe they have like one open call per year, and for all of that you need to track their embassy sites. So the second question was naming rules. Our working name is in English. Does it have to be in Serbian, or can it simply be transliterated of the English name? So it needs to be in Serbian. Like in Serbian, Cyrillic is the official name, and then you can transcribe it to English, Russian, or whatever language as a subsidiary. But like in day-to-day communication, you can use any name. Only for registration, you need to be in Cyrillic. And I saw like maybe that's some kind of mistake. A couple of, for example, I registered one Project Light Foundation, and it was in Latin, Project Light, and it passed. So it's always good if you want some name that is maybe heavily transcribed into Serbian Cyrillic, to try to reserve it with authority in Latin, like MyBridge in Latin, MyBridge udruženje, and then you can, if it reserve passed, then it will be okay when you register it. So that's like a quick hack in that
They
part.
have an NGO, open NGO for MyBridge.
In progress.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So that was about naming rules. Audits. In which situation is audit required? So there is no audit for small NGOs. So only like that reporting to the APR like every year. There is audit, for example, per projects. For example, I done a lot of Ministry of Youth and Sports projects. They inquire like separate audit, but not for the whole NGO, only for that project. So you go to the independent auditor and he audits your project if everything was spent in according to budget, in according to goals, but general audit is non-existent. Even maybe when you become too big, like huge NGO with tens or 50s of employees, then it can be some kinds of audit. Subsidies and benefits. Are there any state benefits to subsidies for especially NGO activities, for example, government support for programs? So yes, like examples are Ministry of Youth and Sports, Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Information, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They usually give like every year some kind of grants, but there's, I always call it a warning sign, like a lot of those are not really like transparent, or not everybody can get them. It's usually that you have some kind of deal or somebody that you know better in those ministries, so you can get. Bless you.
This is for corrupt government.
Yeah. So that's usually with the state. So with the foreign donors, it's better, but you need to be more serious. Like rarely some foreign donor will give you money if you're like NGO that's in the beginning. So that's, it's better to be self-funded at the beginning, to like get your donations for people that want to support your goal, or some companies. But also, for example, in the US, like a lot of foundations and NGOs are financed by private individuals. That's not really the case in Serbia. That sense of community is not developed here still. So most of them come through state or like foreign, and you need to be bigger for that. So it's a bit more heavy to start an NGO in Serbia for those causes. There are not a lot of grassroots NGOs that get funding from the state. So about the different forms of registration, I saw there is something called udruženje građana in Serbian. How is it different from NGO, and where are there any other forms that we should know about? Which ones can work with foreigners? So classic NGO is udruženje građana in Serbian. So there are like that I can count there 3 forms. Udruženje građana, so that's some kind of citizen association, that's classical NGO. Foundation, fondacija, and also endowment, zadužbina. But endowment, zadužbina is more like if you build some grandiose building and you want to donate it to the state, so that's for those purposes.
University.
Huh?
It's a form for university.
Yeah, you can donate, like our rectorate building of the Belgrade University is zadužbina. So, but it's like, and there are like a couple of zadužbina for a lot of rich people that want to give something to the state. So it's not for like a classical NGO.
That's what is the difference between foundation and građana, or how do you call
Okay, between fondacija and udruženje građana, there are different. So, foundation is totally non-profit. So you cannot do any kind of business through foundation. You can register some form of business through the NGO. So that's first difference. Also, it's difference in the governance. So when you create udruženje građana, so classical NGO, you have members. They have assembly and they decide on things. And it's easier to run. If you have foundation, you only have board members. You don't have participants that somebody can freely join in that way. You have only like board of foundation and you have somebody who governs it. So it's more strict in that way and you cannot do any business. It's totally like non-profit with the foundation. So those are like basic differences. It's also a bit harder to register it because like I think there is a bigger amount of papers and you go to the different registry, but that's it.
Any benefits from having a foundation and not građana?
No.
No.
Definitely NGO is easier, like udruženje građana. Okay, so for opening an NGO specifically, what are the main steps and the basic algorithm? So there are like, I give a couple of steps. So first gather the founders. You need 3 founders with some basic idea what will you do with your NGO. Then draft like all of the papers. There is first statute that defines your name, goals and activities, members, governance body, decision-making process, and everything that should be known by your NGO, like for the public. Then you do a holding, you hold the founding assembly, where you sign a founding paper that you are founded for this and this reason, and who are the founders, their names and everything. And then you also appoint somebody who will run that. So it can be founders, it can be somebody else. And then prepare all of those papers for our local authorities. That is like a local registry. It's called APR. So, and you gather all of that, like, because it's a bit of substantial documentation. For example, statutes has like many pages and it all needs to be written in Serbian. That part is a bit complicated, but like forms for registrations are pretty easy. So you write all of that. There's like specific form, specific details that they ask you to, and then you apply. It usually, I call it double tax because you need to pay like a tax of, it's around 50 to 60 euros to register it, but they always find something that was an error in your registration, and then they give you back, and then you pay half of the tax. And then, and then you register it. It happens like to many lawyers that I know that are professionals, like in that way for every like word. They find you something, they're like, oh, please edit this. And they like beautifully say, like, you need to edit this, and it will be okay. You edit that, you have, you pay half of the tax, and magically you're registered. So so I call that like double tax. So that will be around 90 euros for the registry. So when you submit and you receive like decision, it's usually 5 to 15 business days. As I know by law, it needs to be 5 business days, but it can last longer in Serbia. So after that, you get the decision. Then you get the decision from APR and also from the tax authorities with that you registered, that you have your like tax number and registration number, and then you go to the bank to open an account. And like it's simple opening, it depends on the bank. Like I know Raiffeisen Bank is a bit harder because they don't like NGOs, because National Bank of Serbia flagged NGOs a couple of years ago for laundering money, and they're like, oh, we don't like to work with you. So but we have like 20 something banks here in the market. You can find like Poštanska you can do for anything. Like I think that's most shady bank because it's partially state owned. So I think you can do anything with it. Yes, yeah, like hello. But it's also the most disorganized bank because a lot of pensioners receive money through that bank. And it's always a chaos. Everybody's shouting at that bank. So.
Do you recommend any kind of bank?
Banka Intesa. It was good. Now I'm like suspicious.
I know that for
Russian
international.
founders.
For Russia.
For Russian founders, it's only Alma.
Yeah, and I know because I had some businesses with the Russian Federation, banks that can get transaction from like Russia, especially from the state and businesses, is Srpska banka, Serbian bank, Then it was API Bank. That's like that was Moscow Bank before. API Bank and Ike Bank. So those are, and I think one more bank, the Alta Bank. It's the newer bank. So they were like friendly towards like any transactions from abroad, because most of banks here are Western banks, and they completely sanction any transaction from Russia.
Can I ask one more question? So if you have three co-founders,
Okay.
tell me what are the risks? Like, I don't know, do we need to have all the decisions made together or whatever? Like, what if one co-founder, I don't know, would want to quit or doesn't want to do anything and just, I don't know, went to another country? Any risks there?
No,
So basically, I just need a person to send a paper to be a co-founder, and then he's free to go.
practically yes. Yeah.
Unless, I mean, if we trust each other and he's not afraid we're going to make a big debt on
Yeah.
his name or something.
Yeah,
like that.
that's pretty much it. There is no like obligation specifically on the founders. There is obligation on somebody who will run the organization. And when you create an organization, you appoint somebody who will be legal representative.
CEO.
Yeah, like a CEO, legal representative in that case. And he needs to answer to everything that he does. But as for the founders, I run some NGO that,
Someone who's signing
yeah, who signs the papers. Because for example, I run two NGOs. When one NGO was founded when I was 13 years old, and I didn't have anything to do with that. I came to that organization 7 years ago, and like I run that organization. It has nothing to do with the founders that like ran it in 2011. So
And one more question. How do you think if we have an NGO without any founder with a Russian passport, or there is an NGO with a founder with a Russian passport, are we going to have more problems with that Russian co-founder?
no,
Doesn't matter.
no, in that way, no.
With the banks,
But
could be.
if any of those people are considered a threat of national security, then problems can appear. We had similar experience.
Yeah, but
with
that's
banks,
more
yeah,
hardcore.
But they, I mean, they call a threat to national security not an actual threat, but people who might be involved in politics, in Russia, not here again.
Mhm.
So many people can be just not very welcome here, even though they live here. They might even not know this.
Okay.
Maybe have
You
this
speak about someone who persecuted in Russia.
or just some activists.
some activists.
Some activists.
Yeah.
So in Serbia, all banks actually don't understand NGO. What is it? They don't work with all NGO. So they work with NGO. It's not so polite, not so.
They're not
Yeah.
happy to work with
Yeah,
NGOs.
because they don't get so much money, and their NGOs are usually some kind of problem. So nobody is usually eager to work with NGOs. But you can like set a basic account, and they will not make any
So
problems.
my question, if Russian co-founder will block such an NGO from, for example, opening Raiffeisen Bank.
Okay.
So, I mean, we have two NGOs. One have 3 foreign founders, and one of them have a Russian co-founder. With this second NGO, with the Russian co-founder, face any more problems with the banks than the other one? So one
It
very-
de-
one of-
well, it depends on the bank. So better go
Okay,
to
but-
Posta.
but-
Go
but
to
Russia-
Poštanska. They won't make any problem. So you can be oligarchical. They will not make any problem with you. So what about the costs, fees, taxes, contribution, benefits, and how is hiring staff in NGO usually range? So as I told, like registration tax around 60 euros. You can count 90 euros because of what I already told. If you want to do naming reservation, if your name is a bit critical, if you want to check, that's like 14 euros. So if you want to do liquidation after, liquidation is around 200 to 300 euros, but that's if you really want to close it for some reason. Notary fees for everything is like 20 to 50 euros. And if you want to have like a basic accounting service, so you want to like be safe in everything you do, that's like 50 to 150 euros. And there are like some combos, like if you want to have accountant, like advisor and a lawyer, that's around 200 euros. So if like to be sure in every step that you're doing everything right, so it depends on the fees. But you can run pretty much a lot of things by yourself, and that's pretty much free. You have only that meeting with the accountant once a year when you need to submit a report. but like usually I know many of NGOs are like to have like a support for any case, like especially if the founders are foreigners. So on foreigners opening NGOs, as I understand, you can't register without Serbian citizen, but how exactly does this work? Does it have to be Serbian co-founder? Can NGO employ foreigners, and do they need work permits? So I already talked about first part of the question. About the second part, can NGO employ foreigners? Yes, as any private individual or company, you can hire foreigners, and you go for the same process as most of you gone with a visa. So you need to apply for visa to get here, to sort all of the papers. So it's identical as for everything else, like when you came here. And like the tax processes and everything is the same. Only thing that I know is so when you get employed by an NGO, you need to ask employment office in Serbia, like officially, that is there anyone in Serbia who can do that job? But there is I call it, it's a secret that you just put in the NGO description, for that job posting, that you need somebody who speaks Russian, and with special examples, and you can, because for example, a lot of people that work in Volt and in Glovo for delivery, they those companies actually put something funny, that you need to work for them, you need to know Swahili, or Hindi, so they can bring people from India or from Africa. So that was funny. So it's easily managed around, so there is no problem. That is only nuance in that part.
Continuing this topic, what about volunteers? So because I know the situation that it's kind of you have a local NGO here, and you can invite volunteers from whatever country, and because of this volunteer contract, these volunteers can get residence permit.
Yes, so for this question, there are actually, I would call, two types of volunteers. One is unofficial. So you are already resident here, you want to volunteer for some organizations, you can do that at your own free will. They can give you some certificate that you volunteered, but that's something not really official in that legal sense. For most of organizations that I volunteered as a Serbian citizen, it was unofficial. I never signed any kind of contract, or I signed some small contract for some small volunteering fee, or that I will work for free. So there is not much of paperwork for that. But if you want an official volunteer, somebody who can get residence based on the volunteering, that's a bit of complex. So you first need to have, by law, a special volunteering plan that your NGO will issue. If there is a need for volunteering, that is a plan with a lot of people. That's usually done with a lawyer, and then you send that to the government. I'm not sure which ministry. I think Ministry for Labor potentially approves that volunteering, and then you can go with the same process of bringing people from abroad that they are volunteer, but they, I think, need to get approval that they can fund themselves, because it's a volunteering work to get here. So you can do that with the residents, but it's potentially similar as when you want to employ somebody in that way. So it's complicated. But if somebody wants to volunteer here, you already live here, you want to volunteer for free, you can get that without any contract, without anything. Just go and ask any NGO.
In terms of official, there is no real money involved. No.
You can get some fee. So I think there is fees are limited to, it's called the volonterski džeparac. It's volunteer pocket money. And I think it's around maximum 100 euros per month, something like that. So
but no social fees or something?
No. Benefits and taxes and everything, it's only when you're employed. That's not volunteering in that way. Health insurance? Official, state one, no. But if somebody gets residence here, they usually, to that, they usually ask you to have some private health insurance for foreigners. So that's connected in that sense. Okay, and there was also question volunteers. Okay, and one question from people who already run an NGO. They were told they need a separate account for payments for non-residents. They open it, but the money doesn't actually go to any bank. How are people dealing with this now? So it depends on the bank. So I know that I had some money problems with like funds from Russia. So like you go to the special bank for that. So API, Alta, all the banks that I already mentioned. So it depends on the bank. Like most of Western banks won't receive any funds from Russia, and they're really strict about that. But banks that work with Russia and that have corresponding banks in Macedonia or Turkey, which didn't totally sanction Russia, you can get some funds. So it depends on basically on the bank.
It's about as a bank, I guess have a problem. And what about special rating for non-resident?
Well,
Non-resident.
for non.
They ask what they need to pay for non-citizen.
Okay.
And for it, they need special.
Sure, count.
You need for special account for non-residents, and it's rule of the bank or it's rule of the government.
Bank.
It's rule of the bank.
It's always bank is asked on that, so they have like a discretionary opinions of
It's,
you can open or not.
Okay, it depends on the bank.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Не рекомендую даже.
It doesn't get it.
Ну, это вот ребята.
So-
I know that in Gaza Bank, for any international transactions, you have to walk there
Okay.
with a paper invoice.
Yes.
And they will manually make your transaction. For me, like in 21st century, that's insane.
But-
this bank is blacklisted.
But
For me.
as I know,
For
I
people from Russia, it's bank here, it's really
yeah. As I know, so as a resident here, I Raiffeisen Bank, and I do international transactions. Like people paid me some things, and I paid, and I had no problems. And I could do everything online. So, but because you're foreign citizens, possibly there are more complications, and it all depends on the bank.
Okay.
So, from all questions that are asked, those are all 15 questions. Do you have any other questions, thoughts?
Yes, I have a question. If I have an organization
Okay.
and we are basically operate as NGO and have some small scale events, but we have some income. Usually this income is by cash. What sum like is when we are required to register our activity, not for some income from I know big donations, but I mean so that we don't break the law.
So, and those are cash donations.
Yes.
You don't need to register them at all. Like cash is king.
Keep it cash.
Yeah,
Keep it on the table.
as Americans said, cash is king. There is no like proof that you ever got that cash.
But we have, for example, we have an Instagram page. On the Instagram page, we say like we have an event, come, and the entry is by donation.
Okay.
It's, so nobody will.
Nobody will look at your Instagram and do that. Like you need to be under special supervision, and like that needs to be revolvable to big money, so somebody will.
It's less $1 million.
Yeah.
And just imagine if we decide to get some income by cash, but because some people say like we don't want to give you cash, we want to transfer you on your Serbian card.
Okay.
So then, what is the sum that it will be?
So if it's a company, there is no like,
No, nothing registered.
and you don't have nothing. So companies usually don't like to give to persons.
No, I mean the same question that if you sometimes get donations, just a transfer on the
You
card.
mean from private person to
From
you as a
private
private
person,
person,
yes.
not from a company.
From private person to private person. So if it's rarely and it's some amount that is not as even said $1 million,
But what amount is then it's not well?
there is nothing by law that forbids you. But if you like get some ludicrous amounts, often they will flag you to tax authority and they will ask you, what is this? Like, So, but there is no official amount in that way that you can receive donations or not. So there is nothing official by the law. But if it's
Just by suspect.
yeah, but if you're like suspicious, if you get a lot of donations, like thousands of euros per month,
Will you spend them? So I want to extend the question then. Because I have zero experience as an NGO, right?
Okay.
I'm an entrepreneur. So for example, I do things, I don't know, I help animals. I buy
Okay.
vaccines, animal food, I don't know, I pay to the vets, and I receive donations. So whatever, some company donated me 1 million Serbian dinars,
okay.
and I spend 1 million dinars on veterinary services and everything. Is this a profit? Do I need to pay tax?
No,
Do I
so
report to the authority?
that first that needs to be in according with your NGO statute. So your NGO is for helping dogs, cats,
yeah.
etc.
Sure,
So
sure.
yeah, that is your NGO. You got a donation from like a company to do that, and you spend it on that. You get an invoice from like that veterinarian.
And I can prove that
Yeah, and you prove, so it's according to your statute, that's something that's not beneficiary, you didn't earn any money, you have that invoice, that's it.
Okay, so unless we earn anything, it's okay. What
Yes.
if from this 1 million, 10% is like a
stuff,
profit, or for stuff like this, then we have the salary taxes, different story. But if we, I don't know, we bought something for Angel, we bought a computer.
Okay, you can also, everything that is for operation of NGO, you can use it freely.
You must understand what about donation. It's not just transaction donation. It's for some goals. And
We support, like we
yeah,
have
yeah.
on our website,
Sorry,
we have
sorry.
a please donate.
Rita,
That.
in your statute, Ustav, you write your goals, organization, and when in you write the help cats, help dog, and do something else, and then some guys or some companies give you money for your goals, your organization. Nobody care what you do with this money if you make something
What my statute
yes,
presumes and
yeah, you can, yes, it's not you can pay some salary from this money, you can buy some notebook, because without notebook you cannot help dogs and cats and something else. So, and if some company, it's possible to give you donation and in document they type something. You must
for this specific.
for these
this
dogs,
specific,
only
okay.
these dogs, for example, all this money spent. You must spend all
Okay,
this
no,
money
this
for
is
this.
clear, this is
And but you can in this document to type 2. I can take 10% maybe of
For
this
our
donation
NGO needs,
for
yeah,
our
for NGO
organization
needs, like
administration. Yes,
administrative
yes,
reasons.
it's okay.
Okay.
The donation is not just only transaction donation, it's
More complicated.
special
Yeah.
transaction.
But
It-
what if can
Special
NGO start company when it collects money for its operation?
No. That's like a crowdfunding for opening a company.
No, not opening for.
You mean for some business purposes, like you're consulting people from an
for just for operations, not for beneficiaries, for operation, for salaries, for maybe increasing salaries.
На
Or
основные цели. Для собирания и на основные цели. It's okay.
One more question. For example, an NGO or we as an NGO want to make a election or like whatever. So we ask for donations, and it's okay if we take donations and spend them on whatever. Like we can pay speaker under the table, probably, right?
No, you can pay him like legitimately. Like
Literally, like
there's
we're organizing a seminar, so it's like
Yeah.
for a service and it's not a salary.
yeah, and service there's like a simple contract with him, like
Okay.
and you can do that. It's service 5,000. So there is no profit for the NGO, but you pay somebody for some service. And also like there's I call
Can
them
we buy something the NGO needs?
yes, like you can buy juices for the workshop, food, like it's all representation cost. It's fine, especially like if there are private donations, if nobody gives you some clause, like when you get the big donations, you get the budget.
That's
Yeah, you get a budget, and in budget, it depends. For example, for Ministry of Youth and Sports, every dinar you need to be like in those brackets, like especially like for example, U.S. Embassy gives you like for this event, and for that event you can do anything. Like you can go, you can like organize it wherever. If it's in that budget, it's okay. So it depends on the donor. Private donors are more relaxed, so you can buy some lunch and everything. So it depends on the donor.
For example, if the person is not employed with us, we cannot pay salaries. We can pay different people's services. Like we can have we can have him as a предусетник, and he can have services for us. Like this will be an alternative thing for employment, probably cheaper. Right?
Yes, but there is also so there can be a problem with that. So. For example, if some NGO has no like hired staff, and it only gets regular services from some entrepreneur, that's suspicious that it's like a covering of employment. I know many NGOs actually do that, but that entrepreneur needs to pass that test samostalnosti, so independence test, that you as entrepreneur don't get more than one client, you don't get working time from that NGO, etc., so that you are truly independent entrepreneur. But something also that is interesting with entrepreneurs, so when you, for example, have some money left in the NGO and you don't know what to do with it, you want to spend it, you can extract that money with entrepreneur to get the free cash, because then you as entrepreneur, you can do whatever you want with your cash. So, for example, you can charge, but it's also like, it shouldn't be like if a founder has entrepreneurship store and that's a connected person, you do for some of your friends. Like, that's a not connected person with the NGO, they invoice you for some services, and that's how you extract the money from NGO. So it's simple in that way. It's easy in that way, so everybody is using the system in that way. Do you have any other questions?
I wanted to offer to ask other people at the table what are they doing in their NGOs and goals, maybe like tiny bit of networking. And then
why not?
If this is okay, if they part of the plan.
Yes, if
so,
you can.
first of all, I think we will to say thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Before because I thought we had some time for questions, so before we wrap up, may I ask one more?
Yes.
Of course.
If we are like between NGO and some maybe company, because we have like NGO goals, but I'm just not sure about how to register. Are there any benefits to register as an NGO and not that and then as an individual entrepreneur?
Well, it's easier, so you cannot receive donations as entrepreneur. So it's generally, so only like the setting up of NGO is a bit harder because of documentation, but as running it, it's pretty easy. So it's, if you want to do something that's charitable, don't do it as an entrepreneur, do it as NGO. It's better in that way.
And in terms of taxes, is there much difference?
So for anything that's charitable, there are no taxes. So only like, as I said, like if individual wants to donate to your society, so to your NGO, it's a cap 100,000 dinars per year. If company wants to donate, they can donate to your purpose how much they want, and if you spend it in that way, there's no taxation. If you do some like business with your NGO, and you don't, and it's more than 400,000 dinars at the end of the year, that's taxed 15%. But as I told you, you can extract that money with your entrepreneur, so you don't pay a tax.
Just in case to understand, for example, well, not for example, actually we're an organization that works for helping people Russian people to integrate with Serbian people, so we make joint events. But sometimes these events require, I don't know, some place, renting and everything, so we ask people to pay for the entry. If, for example, if it set sum of money, for example, we say like come to us to our event and pay 1,000 dinars.
Okay.
It's well a charitable cause because we don't make a profit for ourselves. We need to cover
True.
the costs, but still we ask money from people. Can it be considered as NGO or?
Yes, it can be considered as a donation. So you require a donation to come to event, or you just take. Yeah, it's fine, or you just take cash, so nobody
And
sees.
can we say that donation starting from this sum, or isn't
Well, you can promote it online as however you want. Nobody will see that and be like, oh, this is not donation, sorry. So.
As an NGO, can we offer paid services if the money that we use will be spent on NGO? For example, we can offer, if we are NGO for cats and dogs, right? And we, for example, have our own vet. We can also provide paid consultations with the money that goes to NGO without the profit. Is it okay?
Well, it depends how you frame it. So if you frame it like you give donation, and we generally help you, please give us donation.
Okay, so
Yeah.
donation is fine, but not like certain price list with a certain service.
Well, that's more of a business, so it's better to be like.
It's more difficult for NGO. It's possible, but it's more difficult because you need more accounting, more something.
Yeah.
Not,
You can do business, but it needs to be registered, and then there is more accounting, more help. So in that way, you can do business, but
for start
It's-
part,
yeah, for start, don't do business at the beginning because it will be like,
Okay.
are you opening NGO or business?
Get a red flag
Yeah, on tax authorities, especially as a foreigner, they're always stricter with somebody who doesn't have a Serbian passport. And also, as I know, state doesn't have much funds, so they now scatter from every place that can get some money. They will pay you up front. So be aware of that.
Thank you very much, and it's very interesting and helpful for us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
Thank you.